Hello, today's video we're going to talk about, as you saw in the title, Bauhaus. What is it, its characteristics, and a little bit of historical context to understand why did it become so important at the time. But before diving in, I want to give you a little bit of historical context. Okay, it started in 1990. I want you to picture Germany at the time. It was going through a really rough time with the Nazi Party, political fascism at the time, and every art movement had a different point of view of the situation. They have two options. They could support it and make a propaganda about it, or they reject it and try to make a statement with the things they do as artists. Whether it was music, architecture, painting, it didn't matter. They all took a strict point of view of the critical time they were going through. And before it started to take popularity, I want you to picture the architecture as something to need to show off, who were really decorated. And for example, the churches who had different statues, gargoyles, who were sculpted, and it was just too much. In general, for example, Versailles, it was to demonstrate the wealth of the people, how they are part of the elite, and they did have the money to create all these kind of beautiful things. But the Bauhaus said that they didn't need all of that. They just needed to make something beautiful out of the shape, the most basic shape. And they took this idea and they moved it to architecture. They wanted to create simple line, shape, a lot of light, to play a little bit with the structure and the materials. And these students wanted to show the beauty through simple practices. And at the same time, they took everything they had as military or as mass production and make it for everyone, really accessible for everyone. Imagine the architecture they used to have, for example, in Russia. It became part of this movement, and they believe that housing or the things they created, the furniture, the art, it needed to be for everyone and accessible for everyone. But the most important thing, they needed to solve the problem. For example, if it was architecture, it needed to be a roof and housing, simple as that. But if you can make it pretty through the shape, you can do it. If it was furniture, it need to be accessible, usable. It didn't matter if they show the raw materials. I'm gonna show some pictures too. For example, they made chairs, they made a lot of different furniture, and in art, they wanted to portray the basic simple shapes, but with the primary colors. Eventually, in 1930, the Nazis were completely against this school, and they asked the director to expel all the Jewish, queer people, lesbians, everybody who were not following the Nazi agenda. Of course, the director didn't accept these terms, and at the end, the Gestapo shut down the whole school and incarcerated some people. But some of them escape. They moved to a different country and they became part of the Nazi party. But that's a whole different story. Even though they shut down the school, the idea and the movement continue. And there is a picture of Hitler. I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to look for it. Sitting in a chair that it was part of the Bauhaus movement. They couldn't resist the aesthetic. It was something they share, the idea of the cleanness, the idea of the simpleness, the function, how it was cheaper at the time because I want you to remember when you are at war and in an active war, the resources are scarce. Another important fact about this school is that they have theater classes. They used to play different roles. They asked the students to participate because they wanted to respect the statement that every art should be included. And at the same time, when they expose the student to these really different classes, they were shaping the mind to follow different paths, not the same one. I know it's contrary because they wanted to create simple forms, but they were really concerned about their students creating their own identity and let it flow through their creations. Let the creativity flow through everything they made by hand. And it was definitely something radical for the time. Even nowadays, I don't think they take serious the creative part in architecture schools. They focus a little bit more in structure and the heart, the heart science, for example, the mathematics, the exactitude, the materials. But I don't, I don't see architectures nowadays taking part in the school play. Not for fun, but for the idea of growing their mind. The movement itself didn't die or didn't stop when they shut down the different schools, but some people state that in 1933, when they closed the last school in Berlin, the different architectures didn't have anything else to fight for there in Germany, and they ended up moving to America where they teach in Harvard or Yale architecture, and they promote the values of Bauhaus, but they're the students at different factors, and it evolutionate in a different movement. And now we're going to see what are its characteristics. First, the simplicity. They wanted to show something pretty, but at the same time, they wanted to use the simple lines, the simple shapes, the three primary colors, and it was nothing flashy about it. But they need also to be part of the art, not just something to throw on the side. They wanted to take the attention of the viewer. One example is the raw materials showing through the furniture, but completing its function at a perfect way and combining different textures. It could be wool, it could be metal, um, concrete. It's different into each artist, but it was definitely art. The main materials they used to create their pieces from, it was glass to play a little bit with the light and the shape, a lot of steel, maybe some wool and concrete, but it was important to play a little bit with the silhouette of the things. They had straight lines, and at the same time, they created a strong. rectangular or triangular shape, but respecting obviously the simpleness at the beginning. To start with architecture, one of the best examples is the Bauhaus in the South. Um, this building was created by Walter Gropius between 1925 and 1926, and nowadays it's recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage because of its history and its importance in architecture. Another fact about it is that at the time when it was being built, the town was industrial, and they proposed Walter Groups if he wanted to come and create this building for the entire population to create a new university for the students, and he said yes, and he started to create it quickly because he only took 1 year to build the entire edification. Moving to visual arts, I want to show you the piece Together by Joseph Albers, who also was part of the Bauhaus University back in Germany. But eventually, after the war, he moved to the US, and there he started to work on different paintings. And he started to create in 1950 a series of paintings called Homage Square, where he portrayed the different textures and colors and how does it play with the shape and how does the shape define the different colors. And one of the best examples of Bauhaus in visual arts. Um, I want to invite you to review and see one of the different portraits he has, and, to try to analyze how does the Bauhaus is portrayed in painting in squares and through the shapes, because he plays with lines but also with circular and organic movements. Another example is the Centrum Paul Klee in Bern, Switzerland. And for me, this is one of the prettiest buildings of Bauhaus. It's created by Paul Klee, and he studied in the Bauhaus University when it started. And eventually, when he moved out of the country, he took these ideas and created different buildings abroad. This building is created by a bunch of different waves of steel who touch the ground and eventually go up until it reaches the roof and creates a sense of movement in everything. And this shows that Bauhaus is not about only straight lines and rough shapes. It could be used as round or wavy and continue the sense of movement with the air, the nature, and in general, an organic form. I hope you liked the video, and now you know what Bauhaus movement is. Goodbye.